Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Kwanzoo's ABM POV. I'm Jeffrey Jewett and I have with me CEO of Kwanzoo, Mani Iyer. How you doing, Mani?
Doing well, Jeff. Good to talk to you about this POV. I think we have a pretty interesting topic here.
Absolutely. I'm excited about today's topic. Today's topic is Beyond MQLs, the new insights for SDRs and BDRs. Today's topic is really going to be a great one as we dive into kind of this ever-changing landscape and some of the new metrics and insights and reports that can provide values for our sales development teams. So today we're going to be going over two questions. The first question I have for you today, Mani, is traditional demand gen has been all about lead gen up until now, and really just the metrics around leads. So what insights can ABM bring to SDRs and BDRs, and more specifically, the kind of overall value to the B2B sales process?
Yeah, so Jeff, well, let me do this. As you know, we like to use our whiteboard here to kind of explain concepts, right, to quickly map it out for folks. So the way I think about it is the big change with ABM is to start with accounts first. So as you know, all B2B companies are, at least on the marketing side, are thinking more and more accounts first. So now typically you have a master account list, and then when you have a master account list representing some flavor version of the available market you want to go after, right, in any of your global geos at any point in time, then what you do then is you map from the master account list to some kind of target account list. And so if I just sketch this thing out, you have a master account list, you have a target account list, and then this is where companies typically make decisions around each of your SDRs, BDRs, what accounts are they responsible for in terms of outreach? And then you end up having a variety of digital tactics that companies pursue to kind of surround these accounts. And so you have the account list, and then associated with every account list, you also have a set of personas. So if I sketch out, a collection of personas here. So a combination of the target account list and then the personas, the game or the goal becomes, how do you penetrate, kind of deepen the engagement for each of SDRs, BDRs to what you might think of as a buying group or buying committee, a buying team, a buying center within each of these enterprises. And so you're going to have a number of different personas with different seniorities and different functions. And then the name of the game, let's say you were to apply, for example, one of the tactics we specialize in at Kwanzoo is, ABM advertising. If you were to run a collection of ABM advertising ads to this target account list, you're going to end up with a collection of what we call engaged buyers. Now, you may or may not know, everything about them. For example, you may not know who they are exactly, but you're going to know a lot about them, right? So this is what we think of as a group of engaged buyers at accounts that the salesperson and SDR, BDR cares about. So really, the point then for SDRs, BDRs goes beyond what they get today in terms of just simple form fills or leads, into understanding all the ways that prospects are engaging them with their brand across marketing and from sales touches, and also tactics such as these ABM advertising tactics. So I like to show it visually with this kind of a quick little circle, kind of a Venn diagram, if you will. So notice there are three circles here, right? So one, you've got a blue circle, which is essentially accounts that, let's say, you're able to engage, marketing is able to engage for an SDR through ABM advertising, ABM ads or retargeting ads, which is to one set of accounts. On the in the brown circle, think of it as marketing themselves as sending out nurture emails. So that may overlap to some extent, may not be 100% overlap. So you have some overlap like you see here. And so some set of accounts are being targeted with marketing emails. And now sales may decide for a variety of reasons to target a group of accounts through sales emails, so a variety of sales outreach tools. So really, this is where things get interesting because we can talk about actionable insights that can be delivered from display advertising way beyond what's been traditionally available. And that's what some of the new insights, Jeff, we should probably, talk about as we continue the discussion. Jeff?
So if I'm understanding correctly, really what we're saying here is that, even before an account becomes or has leads on a specific account, it's the idea that like, hey, this account is engaging, they're viewing our ads, they are landing on pages, they are experiencing our brand, and there's obviously some kind of need there. And so really it's informing the prioritization of accounts from an SDR outreach as opposed to just kind of picking and choosing at random where your SDRs and BDRs should be focusing.
I think you got it pretty well summed up, Jeff. The idea is if you're going to wait on a form fill, so the way I like to think about it is here's your buying group. You might get one person fill out a form here, right? But there is just a lot of people here in the buying group. So the idea is you can proactively target all these people with ABM ads and then understand which of these accounts are actually engaging from your list here. And then some way to rank order, prioritize, and understand what I call anonymous buyers at your target accounts, meaning they haven't revealed themselves yet. But all kinds of information you can collect on anonymous buyers at target accounts, get a sense of the depth of engagement, depth of penetration within each of these accounts, all kinds of insight that SDRs can now pick up on, assuming you start arming your SDRs with some of this data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that the other thing that often gets overlooked before we move on to the next question here is that marketers, so often this kind of lead prioritization and lead scoring falls on the SDR and BDR team, but a truly close-knit team where marketing and sales are working closely together, this really can actually inform marketing in terms of prioritization of marketing messaging around some of that anonymous behavior and around some of those accounts so that they can continue to continue to invest into those accounts and to help to queue them up further for sales development. So just a little side note there. But yeah, that really brings us to our second question here, which is, how are these new ABM sales insights actionable for the SDR and BDR teams to drive more pipeline? We touched on this idea of account prioritization, but I've got to imagine that there's a lot more value that ABM sales insights can provide.
Yeah, very much so. So let me do this. So to continuing the process of us using our whiteboard, what I'm going to do next is just wipe out this page here, and I want to show you an example of what does that report for an SDR BDR on account level engagement. What does that look like? So here's an example of the kind of information that it's now possible to kind of pick up, Jeff, on when you do run one of these ABM advertising programs. That was not possible, right? Even a year and a half ago. So the basic notion is you are serving these targeted ads to a set of accounts. You are targeting certain personas at those accounts, say VPs of IT or directors of marketing. And now this is an example of what we're calling a sales insights report, where you can actually get a report back to the SDR from marketing, which says, here is the account that's engaging with your ad through both ads and visits to your site. You can literally show like a visitor journey, right? All the actions they took from the clicking on the ad to visiting the site and so on. Date and time of the activity, the individual ad creative copy and the associated product or solution, and then the individual website page URLs they visited, and maybe you can even map an associated product or solution. And then, of course, where are these buyers coming from? So each buyer can be tagged with the location they're coming from. So this actually gets pretty close to what the SDR can then act on in terms of now going and looking up in the CRM, looking up at a variety of tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator, like ZoomInfo. And in fact, we've got a couple of screenshots. Let me put that up next, Jeff. Hopefully this makes sense so far. But here's an example of where the same SDR can then look at the information in one of these reports, and like this is an example of Intel and somebody coming from this location, where they can actually go and let me try to grow, make this a little bit bigger. But the idea is You can now go figure out, you know what, somebody from Intel who's a VP of IT in the New York City area, and then go find somebody because you now know that somebody from New York City area engaged and the particular product or solution they engaged on. And that, as you know, Jeff, they can then really get to the email address, phone number, all kinds of details that they can then use, or a kind of an in-mail or direct mail type of outreach into that prospect. So I've got an example of LinkedIn Sales Nav and how somebody might use that. I also have an example of Zoom Info, how somebody might use that, again, to source the right contacts based on these SIR reports and then act on those.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. So really it's, and one of the things you touched on in your example is, I noticed that you really only touched on some of the fields that are actually available directly in this report, but assuming a company has a good sense of their personas,
Right.
so really, in terms of their job titles, industry as an example, so really understanding the industries that they're targeting, it makes it a lot easier to really dial in, really dial in specifically within, their ideal contacts, and it's interesting because prior to this call, I actually ran through a few scenarios, and more often than not, I'm down to one or two contacts specifically at depending on how specific the title is that you're targeting. And so it really can be informative in terms of adding those contacts that are really valuable. And obviously, I don't want to be weird and be like, hey, I saw you visited all of these pages on our website, but at least you can now go and use some of that insights, like the product and solution tagging that you mentioned, and be able to say that hey, are you in the market for this type of product, right, or this type of service or solution? And I think that's the type of thing where right time, right place can really provide a lot of value in the sales process.
Right, and there's certainly we recommend a little bit more of a subtle way of reaching out, right? Where you could say, hey, we've seen many people from your company visiting our site. We're wondering if you might be in a buy cycle for this kind of thing, right? Rather than saying we think you came in. So.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. So that's this is essentially it in terms of key insights that Jeff was able to deliver now for sales that I think we wanted to highlight. There's a couple of questions, and I think hopefully that's a good lead-in, to sum it up, and then we can talk about our next topic.
Yep, that makes.
And Jeff, here's our next topic. We're going to be talking next time around new strategies for smarter account selection. So how to apply AI, machine learning, how to apply intent, and also additional account level attributes such as install technologies and more, just to do a better job of account selection. What do you think?
Yep, I think that's a great topic, and it makes a lot of sense. And I really did learn a lot on today's topic. I think it's going to provide a lot of value, and definitely this idea of continuing to expand and prioritize and create more meaningful conversations in both sales and marketing is really where the world's headed. And in today we're so inundated with messages and communications that really getting things precise, really getting things targeted, really it's going to provide a lot of value. And it really all starts out and stems from account selection. And so understanding what's available to make that account selection really can improve efficiencies across the sales process and across a funnel. So looking forward to our next discussion.
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Look forward to talking to you. Bye-bye.